Hey guys, welcome to your 4 C++ tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be more talking about arithmetic functions and how they are used. Alright, we already know addition and subtraction. Let's do addition. Just test it out. So enter first number, 5, enter second number, 5. Ooh, the sum number is 10. Alright, let's see, it's just squares. Let's try again. 5, 5. There you go. Sum number is 10. Alright. And similarly, we know how to do subtraction. It's just a minus sign. Right? We do 10, 5, and equals 5. Alright. So let's do multiplication. Multiplication, I did it before, but I never really explained how it works. So let me zoom in and show you this. It's just a tiny star which is on your keyboard. Right? This star. And when we run this, let's see what happens. 5 times 5 is 25, alright? Print out 25. 5 times 5 is 25. And this is how you use multiplication. Alright. The last thing I want to talk to you about is division. Alright, let's zoom out a bit. Division. So division, you use a slash, basically backslash, and when you run this, let's see what happens. Let's divide 10 by 5. And you get 2. The correct division, right? Now let's say if you had a decimal, you wanted to, and the division, let's say if you had a decimal, let's try it with a decimal. Let's do 55 divided by 2. So this has an actual decimal of 27.5, I believe. And why doesn't it show the decimal point? You might be wondering, right? Because there's there are many types here. There's int, string, and float. So if you want the decimal to print it out, float is your best choice. Float is for decimals. Whenever you see float, it's for decimals, right? So we can test it out here. Let's change everything to float. Alright. Now when we run the test and we type 35 divided by 2, it prints out the decimal point, alright? Because every integer is assigning as a decimal point, and if it's a decimal, it's receiving a decimal point at the end, it's gonna print the decimal point at the end. Alright. So another thing I want to mention is let's change this back to int. Alright. If you just want the remainder of every time it divides, you can use the percent function. Percent sign, I mean. So it looks like this, percent, and when we run this, let's see what happens. So 55 divided by 2. This basically prints out the remainder. It's called the modulus function, modulus sign, and every time you use the percent, it's gonna print out the remainder. There will be time where you'll need the remainder to, there will be problems where you'll need the remainder you'll need to use the remainder to find how many words are in a file or something like that. Alright, so enough talk about that. Let's talk about alright, let's talk about how in previous program I said everything is in order, right? You have to put the instructions in order. Similarly with arithmetic functions, the computer uses order. Right. Let's see, let's create an int x equals 5 plus 10 times 5 minus 5 plus 55 divided by 2. Alright, let's see what happens. That's when we print this out. That's x. Oh, I forgot to put semicolon. Important, always put semicolon at the end. Alright, it prints out 77. You might be wondering, yeah, I get that it's printing out 77, but how does it work? Alright, it uses something called PEMDAS and associated property. Alright, you probably learned this in middle school or high school. If you don't know it, let's go ahead and Google it and search it for you. Go to google.com and search for PEMDAS, PEMDAS, and there are many abbreviations for it. If you want to learn it, please, if you want your salary. Basically, it means is parentheses come first, exponent second, multiplication third, division, and this is the order it will go in. This is the order the computer will do it in. Alright, so let's see. Let's try using Google to answer this because I'm lazy. I don't want to do it. So this also has a decimal. Alright, and it didn't print the decimal out because we didn't use a float value here. We can test that out in a minute. So as you see, the computer, the Google already put parentheses here in front of you. This means it's doing this first. That's why it comes out as a decimal, alright? Alright, so let's, if we did want to print out the decimal, like I said, use float. Now in this case, this won't work. When you run this, it won't print out the decimal. You know why? Because it's assigning the integer as x. It's giving, when this value runs, it gives out an int. It doesn't give out a float. Right, I don't know if it's gonna make sense. So if we do 2.0, instead of giving it a decimal value somewhere in there, it's gonna give back a decimal value. Alright? I don't know. Hope I'm making it. It'll make more sense as we move forward. Alright? So let's see if this works. 77.5, alright? Because we're giving it a decimal value, we're saying there's a decimal value in there, we're assigning a decimal value basically, and it's printing a decimal value, alright? Similarly, you can put parentheses here, and it'll do parentheses first. Let's see what happens if we do this. 97.5, right? Now to check the answers, since I'm lazy, I'll just go on Google. Alright, 97.5, right? Basically what I did was I did the parentheses first, according to our rule, PEMDAS, parentheses first, exponent second, multiplication third, right? 15 times 5, 30 versus 80, and alright, that's how all it works. I'm gonna leave you on this, and you guys can play around with it, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Alright.